Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. Support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys. Head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
I need to shout out to my niece who said, quote, "If you don't mention me, something bad will happen to you." So,
okay,
getting that out of the way, Tom.
Well, it's a Blumhouse movie, so if there's a threat of being haunted by a little girl involved, then you better do everything you can to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right, but also it's a Blumhouse, so it's like, little girl, something's going to happen to you, something bad.
That's true.
Little kids, they don't fare well.
Little kids don't do well in these movies.
Yeah. No. Hey, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched The Black Phone.
The Black Phone.
Never trust a magician.
Oh, no, hell no. Don't go anywhere near a magician. Especially if they're like a super gothed out magician with a gigantic painter's van.
Right.
Oh, you goof. Well, isn't that just peachy keen?
You need some help?
You see that?
Yeah.
Would you hand me my hat? Yes, sir. I am a part-time magician.
Are those black balloons in there?
Would you like to see a magic trick?
I was going to say the black phone is the different from the red phone. You know, the red phone's like the nuclear football or whatever. The black phone's for when the president wants licorice.
That's good. I like that.
Thank you.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Emergency licorice.
Ghost licorice.
Licorice.
Yeah. This is a movie. It didn't occur to me that we could have watched the Elvis movie. That might have been more fun.
There are several movies out this weekend. All right. We picked The Black Phone because we're little spook heads. We love the spook 'em ups.
Because of course we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Ethan Hawke.
Mm-hmm.
Kidnapping little kids wearing masks.
Yeah.
Top hat. Murdering the shit out of kids.
It's not funny, but I couldn't help but giggle every time they mentioned his name as the Grabber.
The Grabber.
Yeah. That's a first draft name. But like in fairness, serial killers are always named by like the cops or the press, and it's always a first draft name.
Oh, of course. They're not very creative.
Yeah, like the Night Stalker. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like,
that could be like any serial killer.
That could be anything. That could be a purse snatcher.
Like... Yeah. Yep. What did you think of this film?
Oh, I mostly liked it. I thought it was fine.
I thought it was okay. Yeah. I thought it was fun. I had fun watching it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little silly.
There's a couple.
It was indeed.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Hypecast. We talked about this. It is very much a hat on a hat on a hat. I thought they were gonna connect things in a meaningful way, which not necessarily movies don't necessarily have to do that, but they introduce so many elements that it's like surely something's gonna connect this stuff.
The weird thing,
and they didn't.
Yeah, the hat on a hat aspect is that the main little boy who gets abducted, his sister has psychic dreams, and those. And so the main story A, is a little boy stuck in the Grabber's basement, getting phone calls on this mysterious black phone from the Grabber's previous child victims, who are all giving him pieces of clues that will form together to help him escape. And that stuff.
A phone that's just.
Go ahead.
It's just sort of there.
Yeah.
The phone's just sort of there, and it pulses, and they don't explain why it pulses. And it's just there, and then they're like, the killer can hear it too. But he doesn't want to accept it. So I thought, like, oh, we're going to get some sort of lore here. of like why is the killer, because the boy, it's like a thriller, right? Boy trapped.
It's much more of a
Ethan
suspense
Hawke.
thriller than it is a horror. Like there's horror elements in it, but it's primarily a thriller.
It felt like a thriller that someone told them to put jump scares in, because like it's not the only thing that makes it a horror really is they pop balloons every now and then, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the general
I mean,
tone.
there's horror. There's I was gonna say
it's-
he is a child murderer, so
It's close to like the tone of like Silence of the Lambs, where it's
Yeah.
like you could call Silence of the Lambs a horror movie.
right.
Because there's a lot of tone stuff, and just like the mood and the general setting and the premise are pretty horrific. But anyway,
Right.
the stuff with the ghosts, like giving him information, that all connected well enough for me. The stuff that the B plot, which is his sister running around having psychic dreams, never connects to what he's going through.
I don't know why they did that.
I don't know why either. It's the strangest thing about this movie.
It feels so. Yeah, it feels like there's studio notes involved or something, because I do understand. So you could make a movie just on a kid getting kidnapped and having to escape this basement, and it's just like Hannibal Lecter shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That alone is a movie. And it reminds me of studio notes I got where they're like, oh, all right, we love this, but can you like tell the story out of order? And I'd be like, why? And they're like, because we want it to like stand out.
Yeah.
And it's like, but is there a narrative reason? And like, no, we just think it'd be cool. And that sort of stuff, I think, often can kill a movie. But then you watch a movie like this, and it's like, maybe, I guess that's the shit you have to do, where it's like, can the kid be psychic too? And it's like, why?
I guess.
Like, I don't know. We just think it'll be cool. And it's like, okay, but it's completely unrelated. Like there's a black phone that's linked to ghosts, and then also psychics exist, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not that's I think what's the strangest thing about it is that's not completely, unexpected. Like to have psychics in a movie about ghosts, sure, they're adjacent. Like
Right.
they're the same kind of, like, they're in the same neighborhood of paranormal. So, but if you introduce those elements, you would expect them to connect somehow. Like, why is the boy having this experience? Like, surely it has something to do with the fact that his sister has psychic dreams, and we learned that their mother also had psychic visions, but it drove her crazy. She lost her mind and killed herself,
Right.
which made
And so you
their
could do
dad,
something-
Jeremy Davies, an alcoholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you would
He's a real piece of shit.
yeah. So you would expect that to connect, but it doesn't. Now, I understand like why they have the B story. I feel like maybe somebody got nervous that you can't make an entire 90-hour and 40-minute movie out of a single kid locked in a basement. It's like they were probably worried about running out of things, running out of story there. It's like, well, let's have a B story with his sister so we have something to cut back and forth between.
Right.
But it's very strange that it doesn't connect, really.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, people listening, they might realize there is a successful movie about little kids who are psychics and ghosts, and it's The Shining. And the difference is, The Shining, it's like the psychics that is why they can see the stuff, right? Why they're sensitive to it. So you almost need, like, it almost just needed like a line of like, the son also has this ability, you know? Where it's like these two kids who their mother was psychic and they grew up sensitive to like, everything paranormal, and then he gets kidnapped and like it's special to him. But the fact that they also make Ethan Hawke hear the phone too, like they add all these. They did that, I think, just because they wanted the kids to talk to him at the end, right?
Yeah, and there's
I
something. I think that's definitely part of it. But let's put a pin in that, because I do want to talk about the fact that Ethan Hawke. There's clearly a backstory to Ethan Hawke that we don't get in this movie.
Yeah, it just. I guess what it is that they don't. I don't ask that a horror movie explains everything, right? It's
Right.
like, psychics, ghosts. It's the fact that they had so many moving parts
That don't
that
connect.
you felt. I felt the
Yeah.
like they draw attention to it. It's stuff where like, yeah, again, he can also hear the phone. What is the phone? Why is the phone there? Why are the kids talking through the phone? And then they do stuff like the rules are so arbitrary, where the kids are like, "This is the last time we're going to talk to you," and it's like, why? Why is it? Like, why? What is the rules of like the clues. Why would they leave
Well,
the
they
little girl to the house with their bodies and not the house where her brother's getting murdered? Which I guess is the same, right across the street. Boy, 70s. I think that's why they set this in the 70s, right? So
There's
a magician could own two houses.
Yeah, that's part of it. There's also no cell phones. That's the height of serial killers and abductions. Well, there's two. I want to address the two things you brought up. The phone is just the phone. When the kid said this is the last time we're going to talk to you, it's because he's about to disable the phone to fill it with dirt.
Right, but it's a ghost phone.
Sure.
It's not plugged in. And then later they call on the disabled phone.
That's
so he can
true.
listen to
Yeah,
it.
that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would for the second thing what was the other thing you said?
There was also just like why the ghosts kind of leading her
that
to
was
the house that
that's
they're buried in.
That's the idea that her and we've gotten it throughout the movie. That's the idea that her visions are imperfect. Like
Right,
they're never exactly
But again,
what she wants.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's this isn't really a hit against the movie. This isn't all ghost movies. Is that ghosts the rules are arbitrary.
Yeah.
They're based off what the writer needs to happen.
Yes.
And I guess I felt it a little harder in this than other things. Where it's I don't know. Again, overall, I liked this movie. It was just like a little sweaty overall, the movie, with the hats on the hats. And then like the brother living with Ethan Hawke, Ziggy.
I really liked that, actually. I watched this with Hannah, and she pointed out that that shit happens. Yes.
For real.
Yes. That's why I liked it. I liked that the reason, because Ziggy's presence. Okay, so it's revealed that Ethan Hawke's brother, who is played by James Ranson, which is why we keep calling him Ziggy. He played Ziggy on The Wire.
Boy, did he.
Yeah, he sure did. Is staying with him. And that's like, it answers the why here, why now question. Because it's like, well, why doesn't the grabber just kill this kid immediately? Well, he can't because his brother's there.
His brother's there, yeah.
And it's like that, if you look at like real life cases, it's dumb shit like that ends up getting these guys caught a lot. It's just like stupid, mundane, everyday bullshit that pops up that they have to deal with, or they end up giving themselves away for some dumb reason. So I actually really liked that wrinkle that he's been completely... this like mysterious, creepy serial killer, his whole shtick is completely upended because his fucking useless, unemployed brother is crashing at his house out of the blue.
Doing cocaine and trying to solve the
Trying
murders.
to solve the kidnappings while he's out of his mind on cocaine.
I think what it is that, before we get into what's good about this film, because again, I did enjoy this film. Mm-hmm. Oh, excuse me, I just burped.
Yeah, write down that time code if you would.
Yeah, no.
Do it.
No, Tom.
Do it, Dave.
No.
Do it.
No. What I think what it is about the writing is, again, there's so like it feels like there was a lot of things they were trying to solve by adding more elements into instead of simplifying and trying to link it all. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Where it's like it feels like the sister is psychic for like to solve like one thing. You know what I mean? I don't know what that thing was. It feels like they hit something in their script where they're like, well, how could the cops be there if this and that?
Yeah.
All right, let's make the sister psychic. And then they have to like build out based on that. And like, it's one of those screenwriting things where it's like when you're building a house and you keep adding pieces to the house. And then by the end, it's like this big clunky thing. And you're like, okay, maybe I should have just put the bathroom downstairs and over here, where it's like there should have been I think they needed a pass to simplify the elements, because there was no single thing was bad. Mm-hmm. There was just so many moving pieces, and in the end they didn't all feel like the brother, like, okay, like you said, it's like, okay, why doesn't he kill the boy right away? I don't know, let's give him a brother. And then they have to do all this stuff with the brother that ultimately doesn't really do anything. Like, he just kills him.
That's not all this stuff. The brother's in 2 scenes, but I see what you're saying.
It sort of reminds me of the ending when he home alones him.
Yeah. Because
that's all that's all this very convoluted thing the ghosts do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think probably what happened with the sister is first of all, they wanted a B story to give them something to cut away to. I'm pretty sure that's what it feels like. And the story is about kids who have been abandoned or failed by the adults having to stick together to overcome it. Like, they take great pains to show us that the brother and sister, their dad is an alcoholic piece of shit. Like, you know, and the kids get beat up constantly by bullies, and teachers and parents never do anything to help them.
Right.
And like, when the brother briefly escapes from the grabber, like, and screams his head off, porch lights come on all around the neighborhood, but nobody comes outside. So like, having the detective character in this movie be the little sister makes sense, but I think it would have been better if you're going to make her psychic, it should connect to the supernatural bullshit that the brother's going through. Otherwise, just have her not be psychic. She could still be the detective character and just have her doing like detective shit, but as a little kid, you know?
Yeah. Here's the version I would do is you have it just be little kid gets kidnapped. You could do the ghosts helping through the phone. And then you just, like you said, you have the little girl dealing with her abusive dad and like going out and trying to help. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, maybe she like sees him through a window or something.
Well, she collects clues and figures out where he is.
Yeah, exactly. But then you have a situation at the end where it's like a little girl who's kind of helpless trying to save her brother. But then I guess it's that thing of like they set up so much that going back to what I was saying where he home alones the kids is the kids keep calling and they keep giving him ways to escape. And then in the end they all kind of all those ways fail and he just has to fight the guy. And then so he home alones him using all the ways he tried to escape. And so it felt like it was like, well, the kids weren't setting that up, right? Like
I think they were, but they didn't
explain it that way. They were like, dig a hole and try to dig out.
No, they
try
don't.
to climb out here with this cord.
That's deliberate.
And so
deliberate.
It felt like they were like, it felt like they were like, okay, we need to pay this stuff off. There was a lot of payoff, except for the fucking rocket ship. At the end where he's like, I need a weapon. And he's like, you've had one in your hand the whole time. And I was like, right, the rocket ship that I've been wanting him to jam in his neck. And they were like, no, the phone.
Well, there's a more egregious one than that. But to back up real quick, I wanted to address the fact that the kids are just telling him the ways that they tried to escape, which don't successfully help him to escape, but each one gives him a new tool. But that the ghosts don't set that up. That's deliberate, right? Because it's supposed to come together at the end in like for the audience. So
I guess, but it wasn't the ghosts' plan, right?
No,
the ghosts weren't.
The ghosts don't seem to know. Like, they don't know their names. They can't really give him too many answers. They can only deliver a specific piece of information. And so every piece of information
is all like ways they tried to escape.
Right, but everything they tell him end up coming together to help him home alone the grabber at the end. So it's like the ghosts don't necessarily know that that's what they're doing. They just know that they need to give him this information. I think that works fine.
I guess the problem is that works fine in terms of we're watching a movie. In terms of what does it all mean? That's what bothers me is like, okay, so the ghosts know they don't realize they're giving him this information. What's the larger mechanism at work here? Is it fate? Is it this some sort of ghost lord trying to help? Because again, there was this constant feeling, almost like Stranger Things, where you feel like, okay, there's some larger thing here, until you learn the answer in Stranger Things, where you're like, oh, okay, there's this upside down, but like that's what it felt like to me. They kept adding these elements that I thought at some point that they was all going to come together and explain like some driving force to it all.
Sure.
That was behind why Ethan Hawke was the way he was.
I think
why the rules of the kids, and they never quite do that.
No, they don't. And I think I didn't mind it here. And I think it's excusable here because I don't think they do. Because what can end up happening is that can end up like the unknown is a perfectly viable thing to have, especially in a horror movie where you just don't know why the ghosts do this or why aliens behave the way they do or why a murderer like Ethan Hawke is the way he is. Not knowing those things is perfectly acceptable. But it can become a crutch because what will happen is writers will often, or lazy writers will often use that as an excuse to just have a character do whatever they need the character to do and just be like, well, you can't know what's in this ghost head. I think it's excusable here because it doesn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
No,
we don't need to understand why Ethan Hawke is the way he is, or like we don't necessarily. it doesn't feel egregious that they don't explain to me what the overall force is at work that is allowing these ghosts to speak to the brother and is giving the little girl her psychic dreams. It doesn't. There was never a point where I felt like cheated by not knowing that answer.
I wouldn't call it cheated because again, I was along for the ride. I enjoyed the ride. It's more of like they introduced so many elements that I just assumed there was something that was going to come together at the end. Mm-hmm. Where it was like Ethan Hawke has the same condition as them and it drove him nuts or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, they were doing so many rules. They were adding so many rules that it was again, it's the hat on the hat thing. That I think my mind automatically assumed there would be more to it, but it's not egregious that they didn't. It's more of like, I felt like I saw the seams a bit in this movie.
That's
like
fair.
I saw that they were like, they knew they had to pay all this stuff off. And so they were setting them up. And like, again, that's a good instinct. It's better to do it this way than to not pay shit off. Although again, that rocket ship felt really weird to me because they keep,
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the other weapon? Is it the toilet? The top of the toilet? He could have banged his head
toilet
with that.
lid.
Yeah.
He's in a basement. The kid's in a basement that Ethan Hawke has locked him in, and there's a functioning toilet in it that has the lid tank still on it. And in point of fact,
Right.
the kid uses the lid tank to bash his way through an interior wall.
Yeah.
To get inside a meat freezer that he's not able to escape because the freezer's door is locked, but it's full of steaks, which helps him get around the grabber's dog at the end. But
yeah,
just the point is that
stuff like the steak. That was what it was like. Oh, they want to pay off everything.
Yeah,
and it felt little like once the steak came out, I was like, of course, like it would have been okay to just like not pay off one of the things anyway.
I don't think so, because otherwise, what was the point of the ghost reaching out to him, telling him about that weak spot in the wall?
So
because that's the only
honestly,
reason it comes into play is because he can't escape through it. So the only reason it
Right.
ends up mattering is because he gets the steaks out of there.
Right. That's what I mean is like I could really feel that screenwriting mechanism. So like I think less dead kids maybe would have helped or something like that, where like it felt like they do this thing where it's like, here's another dead kid. It's like Scrooge, you're being visited by ghosts. Mm-hmm. And then they have to pay off every single one of them. And so when you get to that point, you're just watching like, okay, so what is he going to give the steak to the dog? How is he going to, like where it felt like they had too many elements that they then had to pay off sequentially. That it didn't feel as clever as it could have been at that point, if that makes sense.
It was, yeah. The ultimate reveal was a little, yeah. I was expecting something a little grander, but he ends up talking to 4 ghosts, and they tell him to get a cable out of the wall. He pulls the grate out of the window with it. One of them tells him to dig a hole. He digs the hole. One of them tells him to bash his way through the wall to get into the freezer. He does that. And then the last kid...
I would have skipped the freezer, I think.
I guess. Anyway. It gets him around the dog. I don't know. You could have skipped the freezer.
Everything about that, because they also introduced this completely new kid in that part, and they do this like elaborate flashback where he's playing pinball. And I felt like that just like briefly paused the movie to like introduce this character. You know what I mean? Like...
Well, we got that for the other kid that we hadn't seen, too.
Which one?
The Paperboy.
Oh, the Paperboy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something about that it was more of a montage-y. Like the pinball kid felt like more like we stopped for this almost comedy beat. I don't know. It was fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I just think they could have gone with one less kid, and I don't think I think that kid stood out as kind of like it kind of stopped the movie for me a little bit, and then the freezer for the dog. Just get rid of the dog. I don't know.
Sure.
But then I guess the dog can't bark.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is it's all just it basically it comes together just to make a very simple trap. Like he digs a pit trap. He trips Ethan Hawke with the cord. He falls in the pit. His foot lands on the grate and he breaks his ankle. And then he just fucking beats him silly with the phone and strangles him with the cord.
Right.
So yeah. But yeah, that's the honestly the thing that took me out of it the most was the toilet tank lid. So I'm like, the toilet tank lid.
Well, so
it's like a I don't know, a 1 pound piece of solid porcelain, like it or ceramic. Like you've seen Saw, right? It's a baseball bat. You can kill somebody with that thing. So
yeah,
that
in the
was like
movie's
the most
defense,
egregious to me.
what they were trying to do, because they set up the idea that the kid doesn't fight back
Right.
at the start, and he has to like learn to fight back, but they don't. They literally just have the really cool karate kid who is cool as shit, coolest kid.
Oh yeah,
around.
Robin Arroyo, I think was his name. He was
yeah.
he was cool as
He
shit.
the coolest kid. But they basically just have this moment where he's like, yeah, just do like back punch, like it's a video game, and then he's ready to go. And it was like, well, shit, that's all it took. It felt like there's a part where Ethan Hawke's asleep and he has to sneak up, and he's just asleep there, and the kid has his fucking sharp rocket ship, and it was like, man,
Or
you
the-
really should just jab that right into his neck.
Yeah, or that toilet tank lid. Also, he has
and,
he
I
has
don't
to
know, man.
walk through the kitchen. Yeah,
So I saw a movie recently. I think I told you about, Tom, called, I think, The Boy Behind the Door. Mm-hmm. And it's about two friends who get kidnapped in this terrifying house.
yeah,
And one of the kids gets kidnapped just because he's there, and the other kid was kidnapped for a purpose. And so the first kid has to try to rescue his friend, and it's really creepy. And all it is it's this kid in a house with a couple other people, and that's it. And he's just trying to get the fuck out. And there's no ghost, there's no psychic kid, and it's really tense. But it's also a film no one saw. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because it probably was ultimately too simple of a film. There's no gimmick to it. Mm-hmm. And so I look at this film and I go, okay, this is clearly the more successful version because they have to add all these elements,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But having watched that film, it really is in my head. It's just like, I think the film, The Boy Behind the Door, was too simple. And I think this was too complicated. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be an in-between where I honestly think they don't even need the sister. You know, I think it could have been if they spent way more time, if they did where he's almost, you start the film or you get him in that basement quickly, and then we do that thing where he learns about each boy as the ghosts show up, and you keep it. I think it's interesting enough to keep it in that basement. Ethan Hawke, who we haven't mentioned, is interesting enough for that.
Yeah.
But it felt like the movie was like too scared of being too simple,
Yes.
and instead it feels way too complicated to me. And it doesn't mean, like-
disconnected. I think.
Yeah. Well, I would say complicated, but that doesn't mean it's confusing. It doesn't mean it doesn't pay stuff off. It's just so many moving parts that it didn't. I don't know. There was something about it. Like the editing felt a little rushed. It just felt like they were trying to do too much in one movie.
Yeah,
So like,
it felt like two different movies. You know, the
Yeah.
movie about the sister and the movie about the brother, and it's like I those should have connected more, or yeah.
and I think it made each story too rushed, I guess, is the thing. It also made it feel not satisfying enough. And there's a lot of like, just, I don't know. Like the idea that they were trying to make it so that it's like, this little boy is not going to fight back because that's who he is. It never quite felt that way. So like I had to keep remembering. I was like, why don't you stab Ethan Hawke right there? Or why don't you do this? And it was like, oh right, they've decided that the boy is bad at fighting back until he's not. But they didn't really get to spend that much time with that concept, so you don't really feel it as much in the scenes, or at least I didn't.
Yeah, I mean they spent time with it because we see him get his ass kicked a few times by bullies. It's just they didn't emphasize the right things in those scenes. Like in those scenes they emphasize that his sister is fiercely protective of him.
Right.
But like they set it up, like they do the work, they just don't quite emphasize. Like they show like when his drunk ass dad is just beating the shit out of his sister because he doesn't want her to have the psychic dreams anymore, and he's standing on the other side of the room just shouting at his dad to stop, but he won't actually do anything.
Right.
And then there's a couple of scenes where he just sort of gets like we see that he keeps having to be rescued from bullies by other people, and so they put the pieces in place. It's just, you're right, the right things weren't emphasized because I didn't. You're right. Like I didn't remember that about, like, that didn't solidify itself as a
he
part
kind
of
of
his.
acts brave.
Yeah, it didn't come across as like a character trait of this character. You know what I mean? Like we didn't. So you're right.
Yeah.
We don't feel it in those basement sequences where it's like, oh, he's not fighting back because he's timid. It just never came across. I don't know.
They needed to give him like shaky hands or something that always happens when he can't fight back. They needed to give him like some sort of visual cue for the audience. Or they needed to make him less of a smartass because he's not afraid of Ethan Hawke when he talks to him, really. Like, obviously he is, but he doesn't. He's just like, oh, you should let me go. The cops are coming. You know, like, he's kind of a clever kid, and he doesn't seem as scared as he should be in the scenes with Ethan Hawke, I feel like.
Yeah, I
don't know. Again, a lot of moving pieces, and I think simplicity would have helped all this too.
Yeah.
All that said, like in terms of like something, a horror movie to watch, I don't know. Again, I think this should have been a thriller too, because that's the other issues. I really like this director has he did Emily Rose, right?
Yes.
And he did Doctor Strange.
Yep.
And he did Sinister.
Yeah.
And I kind of have the same issue across the board usually, which is that he can think up some really creepy imagery, but he leans on jump scares so much.
He does, yeah.
And they're the most forgettable types of scares. And in this one, they did it again where the jump scares aren't even for any character. They're for the audience. Like, a couple of the jump scares are things that only we can see. Mm-hmm. And that just feels like, oh, you're just making us jump.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Something about that feels cheap to me. And so, like, you take that stuff out, it would just be like a really creepy thriller.
Yeah.
And I don't see why it can't be that.
It should have been. Yeah, I don't know if it's studio notes, but or if it's just a particular weakness of this director. As we've pointed out, it's a thing he does a lot. Yeah. No, I think this would have been probably better suited because there's a lot of things I like about this movie that we haven't touched on, but I like the setting. You know, it's the perfect setting for a serial killer story. You know,
visually it's great.
Yeah, using the home movie, like the 16 or millimeter home movie style for like the psychic visions or the dreams or stuff, I thought was a really cool idea.
He did that in Sinister as well. He has a thing for that.
He does, but it's more active in this movie, if that makes sense. Like the sister becomes part of them. Like she's like she gets into the back seat with the pinball guy when he's getting driven away by the cops in that last vision. And I thought that was a cool idea. And obviously Ethan Hawke is a lot of fun as a creepy ass serial killer.
Yeah, it almost goes without saying. Ethan Hawke is such a good actor. He's so good at playing weirdos.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it, and I'm not like the first person to say this, so it's not like a bold opinion, but Ethan Hawke, I don't think has ever given a bad performance. Like he's always interesting.
He's always good.
Yeah.
I just think I think, and it's the same writer, I think, and the director who work together. Mm-hmm. I think these two have such good fucking ideas, and they like the writer has great ideas. The director has a great sense of visuals, but they always pile on a little too much for me.
A little too much, yeah.
Sinister was the same, where it's like those home movies, it was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, like, by the sequel, they're, like, feeding kids to alligators, and it's like, all right, settle down.
Well, I don't think he made that one.
I don't think they made that one, in fairness. But the first one, they still did, what is the demon's name?
Bagul.
Bagel?
Bagul, yeah.
Bagel.
He's the boogeyman, you see.
Like, he's the boogeyman. He's John Wick. But then they did stuff where, like, he would literally just do these ridiculous jump scares where he'd, like, stick his face in front of the camera, and it's like, you don't need that. It's like they're self-conscious, where they're like, is our scary movie scary enough? We better add some jump scares in here.
No, I'm certain honestly, that's it. It's like,
yeah,
we were talking
imagine
about
Sinister without those jump scares. It would have been that's the thing, is the jump scares actually make it a less scary movie. Personally, at least to me, because it feels insecure about its creepiness.
Yeah.
And both of these movies would be scarier to me, I think, if they didn't do that so much.
I think I'm sure that's part of it, where it's, we've talked about how you can time like action scripts almost, where it's like, okay, we need an action scene here, we need an action scene here, we need an action scene here. So it's like in a horror movie, they're like, we need a scare here, we need a scare here, we need a scare here. And if there's like no narrative reason for a scare, you just put in a jump scare.
And it becomes the movie loses me usually when that happens.
Yeah.
Because it's just like,
it just becomes noise. Yeah. It just becomes noise after a while.
you have shocked my nervous system. Congratulations. Like, literally anybody can do that. Like, it's like crafting a jump scare does take a little talent, but like anybody can scare anybody with the right timing.
Yeah.
It's just if you make the music quiet and then you just have them jump out in front of you, yeah, that'll do it. So I don't know. I really wish they would let their movies have room to breathe. Because again, Ethan Hawke in this, amazing. The kids did well too.
The kids are pretty good.
The tone. Yeah. I liked the Adventure Kids element.
Yeah.
I loved the kid, the sister being mad at Jesus.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
He's really yelling at Jesus. Yeah. Like, what is this shit?
It's yeah. Oh, so
I pray
that
to
she
you
keeps
every fucking
assuming
day.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And that, again, those were the things that made me think, is there something else? Because she's like, maybe you're not real. Jesus, are you helping? So I kept thinking, like, okay, she's praying to an entity that is giving her these visions, and she's questioning it. Are we going to learn, like, what that entity is in the end? You know, like, they kept introducing those questions where it's like, thanks for giving me or maybe it's not you giving me these visions. And then, like, adding a religious element and adding the dad being like, your mom, it drove her to suicide. She saw the wrong things. And so it's like, what were the wrong things? What was that? Like, there's so many little offers they do that don't get paid off that I felt like they needed to just drop all of those.
Yeah.
You know? That's the problem, is that they kept kind of, it's like when you tell a lie and it gets too elaborate.
Yeah, exactly.
And it starts buckling under its own weight.
It's Todd Margaret.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's Todd Margaret, where it's like, sorry I'm late. I missed the bus. Actually, I missed the bus. You couldn't believe this guy tripped me on the street. And then you just keep adding to it. And then it's like, okay, well, you're going to have to explain this more and more. It felt like that. They kept adding little bits that was filling out the world, but to me, it felt like it was leading to something that it wasn't.
Right. It's almost too big. Like I was saying earlier,
yeah,
I don't think it ever quite gets egregious enough where I felt like, oh, you just did that to get away with something, and you're not explaining it to me, and that's like cheap. That's not fair. It never felt like that to me, but like they do hint at a big enough, broader world. It would be like it almost got to the point of somebody casually mentioning the Gargoyle War. You know, and you're just like never referencing it again. It's like, okay, if you're telling me that this world is like this fantastical, I'm gonna need a little bit more information.
Exactly. And again, they're not making bad movies. These aren't bad movies. I would argue, and this is, I'm sure they would even, whoever wrote that, The Exorcism of Emily Rose is, in retrospect, one of the least responsible movies ever made.
It's also pretty cheesy.
Yeah. That one's rough around the edges. It has one good scare. I mean, it's a horror courtroom drama, which is like rock hard for that. But unfortunately, it's about a real girl with epilepsy who is essentially kidnapped and murdered by our church. And it's told in the version of, but what if it was a demon? And it's like, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah. But I guess my point is that they have good instincts. They have a lot of good ideas. It feels like they can't control themselves. And I have a solution for them. What if this was a TV show? The Black Phone as a TV show or a mini series? I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. You mean like
you could add the psychic kid.
Yeah.
You could add all the elements. It's just you need more room.
Yeah.
That's what it is to me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, imagine a mini series where it's like each kid getting murdered. They like it very, the kid gets kidnapped like at the halfway point, and you have more room to introduce the town and the kids and all the psychic stuff. You could have the little girl have these visions for a little bit first before her brother's kidnapped.
Yeah. No, I'm into that.
Yeah. Because it felt like there were two main characters too.
Yes, no, 100%.
And they didn't have room for either of them.
Yeah, both the brother and the sister are 100% co-main characters, yeah.
Right, but they didn't, like, I could see a whole movie about a psychic girl whose brother is kidnapped.
Yep.
We never see where the brother is, and she's having visions. That's its own movie.
Yeah, and then, likewise, the whole movie could have just been about the brother in the basement. Yeah.
Yeah. I just, it just felt cluttered.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Not cluttered to me. It just was strange that the girl's storyline, her psychic stuff never connects with the supernatural stuff going on in the basement.
Yeah, she's just a psychic.
Yeah. Yep.
Just an incidental psychic.
Incidental psychic. Yep. Or incidental ghosts, because like the fact that she's psychic seems to be the bigger meat of the story, right? Because there's that whole history with her mom, etc. You know.
I love how shitty are cops that they're like, well, that little girl seems psychic. We're just gonna go with that.
The shittiest.
Like those cops did not question her for a second.
I mean, yes.
I mean, good on them.
Yes.
They were some 70s cops too.
Yeah. Oh, this glorious 70s
They looked
cops.
like they
Guys,
they looked like they were supposed to be like showing Axl Rose around Beverly Hills.
Yeah,
they had that energy.
They're guys that are not allowed to be in movies anymore. These are two heroes.
Yeah, God bless them for putting them in
supporting supporting actors, character actors. Anyway, crap, I lost what I was going to say.
No, we were just talking about the cops trusting the psychic girl.
Oh, sure.
Which is fine.
Yeah, any number of these true crime documentaries you see about cops hunting serial killers in the 70s, you know, where the investigation techniques were much more limited. Like invariably, they all say, yeah, we talked to psychics. We were at the end of our fucking rope, you know? So it's not unbelievable. It's just kind of funny.
Doesn't even...
Yeah. They come to her. Because they heard it through the grapevine. She had a psychic dream. It's very much like the South Park episode, Cartman's Incredible Gift, when he just pretends he's psychic, and the cop is like, we got to get this psychic boy in there. Just so like, good. With no evidence. They just come to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like that, man. Where they come to her at school, and they're like, tell us about this psychic dream you had. And she correctly is like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, that was great. Again, rock bottom cops. I was surprised that when they meet Ziggy, they weren't like, oh, yeah, help us. Please, cocaine man. You're psychic, but cocaine.
Yeah, you're psychic, but also on cocaine. Does the cocaine give you psychic abilities?
Yeah, please say yes.
Yeah, it would be best for us all if you said yes.
Right. But then Ziggy's story, that's another movie in itself. And again, it's
be.
like, I did like that element, but it also felt like, why is it there? Like you could lift Ziggy completely from this movie and it wouldn't change the movie much.
Yeah, I mean,
just invent a new, they sort of give a reason where he's like, why hasn't he killed me? And he's like, because you're not playing
the game. Yeah.
So it's like, you don't really need Ziggy.
You don't. But like I said, I did appreciate having that wrinkle there and having it be as dumb as it was, because that shit did happen. And it's just,
I always enjoy seeing Ziggy.
And yeah, Ziggy's great. Anytime he shows up, I'm like, oh, we got a movie now.
Yeah, exactly. It just, it was really like pick a lane type for me, whereas like they didn't give one element enough because they had too many elements. Is I think ultimately where I land on this movie is like you tried to do too many things. And so you didn't quite do any of those things, but it's really fun to watch. It looks really creepy.
Mm-hmm. It's
jump scares.
It's really
could have been lifted out easily.
It's really good at tone. There's a solid mood throughout this film that I really enjoyed, and it's a fun little thriller.
Yeah, I just wish they would. I don't know.
Yeah, it's messy.
Do a couple more passes.
For sure,
it's messy.
For sure, messy, and
like,
you can easily see areas where that could have been tightened up and made this a better film, but it's still fine. It's still perfectly entertaining. It's better than most of the pop horror that comes out, for sure.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, if you take into account every horror movie being made, it's definitely in like the top 20th percentile.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's taking into account every horror movie that's ever made.
Yeah, I was talking about pop horror, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is one where it's like, you get those like best horror movies of 2022 lists. It would be on there. I would put it low.
Yeah.
I think. It doesn't do anything that's going to stick with you. And it really is like, if I had any advice for this director, not that he needs my advice.
No, he's quite successful.
Because who am I?
Yeah.
He's doing great.
Yeah.
But like, seriously, the jump scares aren't working. I don't think they're working. They never really work. It takes a very unique situation for a jump scare to feel justified or work for me.
Yeah. Here's an example, and it's similar to what he does with the home movies in Sinister. There's a moment in this film where the jump scare idea really works, and this is like an example of a good jump scare. And it's because it's not really a jump scare, but it's like in the same neighborhood. It's when the kid wakes up because he hears the dripping. And then he like looks over and he sees this ghost of a kid that's like floating suspended in the air with his throat slashed, and the blood is what's dripping on the ground. Like, I think that's
and then he casually points. I love the kid's like, over there.
over there. Look at the phone.
He's like, thanks.
Yeah, but like I like
Yeah, he's like, look at the phone. It's like, yeah, kid, I know about the phone.
I know
Thanks
about
for
the phone.
scaring the shit out
yeah,
of me.
there's literally
Yeah.
a line in a line of water damage in the wall that points directly at the phone, so it's always the
Yeah.
focal point of the shot. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think like that's the way you do it. Like it's more like a tightening noose than like a blah than like a popping balloon, you know? Because we hear the tapping and we're like, oh shit.
You're right, and you know something.
So
you also actually see the kid in the corner of the shot before it's revealed.
Yeah.
too.
So it's more
Yeah.
that's more like within the narrative, and it's like something that the character is actually seeing, and it's more about mood than it is about something popping out at you. Like, that's the way you do it.
It's also a camera directed. Because I mean, the best jump scare in my opinion is still The Exorcist,
The Exorcist 3, yeah.
because it's a snap zoom. So it's like, whoa, like the worst jump scares are the ones that do use a cut to do the scare, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because that's real cheap. But like this, and so another example that's wrong in this movie is that the first time we see a ghost, he's talking on the phone and the camera just moves to reveal that the ghost is next to him, and he doesn't see it. And it just like screams noise at us and like goes and puts in like, and it's like, you don't need to do that. Why would you do that? You just like made my nervous system like
So you could have
upset.
There's something about that though that I did think was really cool and effective. It's if you took out the like the jump scare alert sound and it was just the ghost standing
Yeah.
behind him, because the rest of the scene plays out like it doesn't cut. Like the kid keeps pacing
Right.
as he's on the phone, and the ghost kid is moving behind him and kind of leans against the wall. But we can see that the ghost kid is speaking, but it still sounds like the voice coming through the
the phone.
receiver, and that's a cool
That's a
effect.
cool idea.
That's a really cool effect.
Yeah, and you can have the kid just like slowly walk in.
You could just
like out of the shadows.
You could literally just take the jump scare alert noise out of that. So you'd have a minute of like, when the ghost is suddenly there. And as that continues to play out with the kid just behind him speaking in the phone receiver voice, that's fucking creepy. And we're not like ruined to the creepiness of it because we got blasted in the ears by a jump scare. You know what I mean?
Right. I would have put the kid farther away so we can't quite see him.
Yeah. They
He's
do
like-
like, that with one of the ghosts.
I like the idea
but
that I would like the idea that we never quite see them or something. They're always kind of in the distance or something. But it gets to this point where the problem is ultimately the ghosts are there to help him, to the point that near the end, he's like, the kid is helping him fight and they're both doing the moves and we're not scared of the ghosts at all.
No.
And so like after a while, you're like, well, you just tried to get in some extra jump scares. Because like,
well,
the he's not in danger, and like to jump scare that child that for just us is to tell us, oh, this is sinister, and it's like, but it's not. He's here to help him.
No, but there's still
it just feels weird.
I mean, it's a sixth sense. Like the ghosts aren't malevolent, but they're still scary.
But that's the point of the Sixth Sense,
Yeah,
is
and-
him slowly learning that they're not scary.
I think that's
so they're scary to us until they're suddenly not scary to us in the Sixth Sense. They purposefully do that.
yeah.
Like by the end, they're a little unsettling, but they're not scary anymore.
They do that here. Like you point
Yeah,
out,
I
like
guess.
with the last kid, where it's the badass kid Robin Arreo, who is like showing him how to
he's
fight.
not scary at all.
He's not
yeah.
scary at all. But the point of that scene is not scary. The point of that scene is sad, because that's when he has to
Right.
say his final goodbye to his friend. So it's
Right.
like been building to that, where it's like the initial fear of
It's-
these kids, and it goes from he's scared of them to he's like, okay, you're helping me, to he gets frustrated with them because of their limited ability to actually
Yeah.
say what they mean and be direct. And
But
then
the-
finally
but
it's
that
like,
first scare.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, and then finally it's like bittersweet. It's sad because he has to like,
Right.
okay, this is the last time we're gonna speak, you know. So I think
But that first scare is just for us.
Correct, yeah.
That's the thing that bothers me,
Yeah.
is that he's not scared in that scene. It just there. And again, there was in Sinister, the ones that really bugged me is like Ethan Hawke. They do a POV shot where Bagel just like pops out of his like to the side of his vision, and it's like, Ethan Hawke, you couldn't see him standing there. You know, like they use like they did a few scares where Bagel just like pops into the frame from the side like he's fucking Bugs Bunny or something.
Yeah.
Just like, and it's like, you literally just jumped out at me. Are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Like that is the laziest jump scare I've ever seen in my fucking life.
It's very funny.
If they're just if they're just outside the frame, it's just like, what the fuck is that? Like that's awful.
Yeah.
So I just think they lean on it way too hard, and they don't do most of them aren't very good. And so it's like, just cut them out. Just cut them completely out.
Yeah, honestly.
This movie didn't need that.
No, it's a cool idea. It's creepy. It's a decent little thriller. It didn't need to have the blah, you know.
Really does. Most horror movies don't.
Yeah.
But it's always frustrating when it's stuff like this where you see a lot of good in the movie and you're like, can you not do that? Like Sinister's the same way, where it's like there was a lot of great ideas. But
yeah,
I feel
this is similar. Like I think I like this more than Sinister, but like they're occupy the same level of esteem in my mind, where it's like, they're pretty good, but there's mess. There's mess.
There's mess, and I think ultimately I've never really, nothing about them stays with me, because the horror draw from.
I love the ending of Sinister, but yeah.
Oh, I mean in terms of like creepiness, or nothing ever from these films haunts me.
Oh yeah.
Or like gives me chills, or like makes me sad, or makes me think like, wow, that was a really emotional moment. Because ultimately it's very like haunted housey.
It's a fun house, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just shit jumping out at you, and it never really feels like there's enough there to like really stick with me. Even with the horror imagery is like, it's very, again, it's haunted house. It's, let's put blood on this character, let's put a scary mask on this guy, and it's like, yeah, it's all kind of been done. Like they don't, it's rarely do I see anything that I haven't seen before. Like Bagel looked like every other demon. And Ethan Hawke, the mask is cool, but honestly, it's his performance more than anything.
Yeah, I did like the masks. The masks were neat.
They were neat masks, yeah, but they just look like I was talking to people and they're like, "Oh, that's the one with the Purge mask." And it's like, yeah, it is. It's the one where he's wearing the Purge mask.
Yeah, basically,
because it's all kind of from something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything is derivative. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can do more original stuff, I would think. Mm-hmm. But it's harder. I get it.
Yeah, it's more difficult.
Because it used to be in the 90s. You could just do a boy being kidnapped, probably. that alone. But now you have to add so many more elements.
Yeah, now you got to add Carnival Ethan Hawke with a bunch of masks.
Yeah,
I do like that you never really see his face. That was fun.
Yeah. That was fun. I mean, I know what he looks like.
Yeah, I know. I just thought it was cool. I don't know. It's neat.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing is, if you wanted to do that, I'm not saying they should have, but you get an actor that people don't know. I think that would be more effective, right?
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm glad Ethan Hawke was there.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad it was Ethan Hawke.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. We love Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, and he has fun with this. So he doesn't. He plays it in an interesting way that's not like obviously menacing.
Yeah, they're doing a whole thing where he plays naughty boy with them, which doesn't sound. It's not as bad as it sounds. It's still pretty bad.
It's still pretty bad.
He like tries to let them escape, and then he's gonna like beat the crap out of them with a belt.
Yeah.
When they actually escape.
Yeah.
He's got a whole thing.
His game is he has to punish the kids, like that's his game. But in order for him to punish them, they have to break the rules first, and yeah, it's a whole thing. But yeah,
I guess there's probably something with the dad who's also abusive. But again, it didn't feel streamlined enough for me to think about what it all meant.
Oh, they drop hints about Ethan Hawke. Like he mentions he was in the basement a lot as a kid. That's when he started hearing the phone. Like I'm pretty sure he was a child of abuse. At least that's what they're hinting at.
It seems that way.
And the fact that
Ziggy he turned out all right.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. There's nothing wrong with Ziggy at all.
Ziggy's doing great.
Yeah, he's a wild-eyed coke maniac who can't hold a job.
Ziggy is a chance to have exposition. About those things, and they didn't really.
No, but I think enough pieces are there that we get kind of a picture, and I didn't need to know anything about him, to be honest.
No, you're right. I didn't need to know anything. It was just that they kept making these little offers that made me feel like I was going to learn more.
Yeah, I don't know. There's enough there. The fact that his whole game is playing naughty boy, it's like, well, that's.
Yeah.
Like they put enough seeds there where you're like, well, he was probably locked in the basement by his dad who beat the shit out of him for any transgression.
When
and
he came out, yeah.
And now he's just grown up into a mask wearing sociopath. That's enough for me.
Yeah. I want to know how he makes his living. If he's legit a magician.
His did you notice his
And
business
is that-
name is Abracadabra?
Oh, fuck.
Really funny to me for some reason.
Yeah. He probably gives pickup artist seminars too.
Oh, hell
I
yeah,
just don't
he
know how he
does.
affords those 2 fucking houses.
It's the 70s, man. You could buy a house for $500.
That's true. That's true. He probably won them in a card game. He probably got it in an arcade machine.
Yeah. He won
A
his
claw
second
machine
house in a
gives you
claw
the
game.
keys to the house. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I think we're done.
Yeah. So this isn't like The Boy, you know. This isn't like a train wreck.
No.
This
This is not a bad
certainly,
movie. No. It's just
it's perfectly
messy.
fine.
It's just messy.
Yeah. It didn't. Yeah, it's one that like ultimately I probably wouldn't have done a podcast about because it's like if you like this movie, good for you. You know, like I don't know. I was entertained enough by it. I probably won't watch it again. Maybe I will, but it's that feeling where it's like, yeah, it was good. It's fine.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say don't rush out to theaters. Watch it on streaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this feels like it could have been like a Netflix release, but you know, whatever. I'm not hating on movies
No,
for
I mean
being
I'm
in the
glad
theater.
the movies are back.
Yeah, the movies
Yeah.
are back.
Did you get the trailer?
They've returned, Dave.
Yep. You get the trailer for that Smile movie?
I did, and boy, they show you the entire movie.
Yeah. So there was a teaser for that, and it looked really good. And now the trailer came out, and I'm like, ooh, never mind.
I mean, it's an It Follows
Like-
knockoff, and the trailer shows you every fucking beat of the movie.
Yeah. I love the Smile idea, and then everything else. It gave me that Truth or Dare vibe. Mm-hmm. It's a real shame because, like, yeah, that the first idea, the imagery, it's like, oh yeah, that's
That's
cool.
unsettling.
neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a way to.
Too
There's
bad
a way
you
to.
didn't make anything. of
Yeah,
it.
there's a way to do that that'd be really creepy, but I see you've gone and made some bullshit with that idea.
Yeah, I see you. You went off the rails.
With a shot. Did you know the shot at the very end is straight up stolen from that Argentinian horror movie Terrified?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yep. They're just lifted directly from that movie.
Yeah, I got like the trailers made me really depressed because there was also a trailer for that Fall movie. It was called Fall.
Yeah.
And it was just like a bad CGI tower.
The worst
and then there's, like, some
CGI
ladies.
I've seen since mid '90s PlayStation games. I was like, boy, I
Right.
hope this is not like supposed to be real. And sure enough,
Right.
it was.
And it's one of those where it's like, what a cheap idea. Where it's like, oh look, are you scared of heights? This is about people who are up high, and boy, they got to get down. And that's the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, great.
I mean, it's
Great.
been done before
Yeah.
too. Like there's
Yes, it sure has. Yeah.
There's even a low budget but decent Sean Ashmore one where they're stuck on a ski lift.
Oh yeah, I saw the posters for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those only, you know, those are ones where it's like they're trying so hard to make 90 minutes, you know,
Yeah.
where it's like you're a short film at best.
They're all
and
they're all clock in at about 82 minutes. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Barely longer
they're
than
just-
The Lion King.
Yeah, they're phobia films. They're just like we're appealing to this one phobia.
Anyway.
And again, I don't know, folks. Hey, listen, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon that I want to tell people about. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on there, you get exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spielboys are all for $5 of your human dollars a month. We also watch movies with our patrons every Friday night. We took a little break this weekend. There was no movie night. There was no Hypecast, but we're going to be back at it this week.
We sure are.
Yeah. And, you know, you can give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts, all that.
Yeah.
That's an option.
Please do. It helps us out. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs. You can get on T-shirts, stickers, posters, mugs, all kinds of stuff. So check that out.
Yeah.
All right.
And my niece says hi.
Okay, hello. Let's be done.
I mean, she's not here. I'm just saying, you know.
I mean,
Bookending.
I didn't know.
You
I didn't
bookend
know. I
it.
didn't
That's
know
how
if
you
you were
do this.
if you were speaking to her on a ghost phone. I didn't know.
No. I want to get a ghost phone.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it could be useful.
Yeah. Or not. They couldn't even remember their stupid names.
Right,
These
yeah,
idiot
like
kids.
my luck, I'd get a ghost phone that only lets me speak to like dead Prussian royalty from 200 years ago.
Right.
It's like, well, I can't use any of this information.